stay there and will keep us updated. Thanks so much. Now, stay with me on this one. We can all agree Supreme Court justices need to walk a very clear line when getting involved with anyone or anything that could become a conflict of interest when making the law of the land. But here's the question. Does this cross that line? This is what I'm talking about. Conservative Justice Antonin Scalia, he's going to give a talk organized by Tea Partier Michelle Bachmann. Now, she and her supporters have been very vocal opponents of the new health care law, which is sure to end up before the High Court. His talk is not about that. It is not open to the public, though, or to the press. Let's bring in our company, Politico reporter Patrick Gavin, former domestic policy advisor to President Clinton, Jamie Floyd, and Princella Smith, GOP strategist and founder of ChooseYourChairman.com. All right, now, we have to understand that it's not out of the ordinary for justices to give speeches. They do that. But then there are a couple of major questions here. And Jamie, let me ask you the first one. Does this create a conflict, or at least the appearance of a conflict of interest? I know you've vetted Supreme Court nominees before. Is there a problem? Not only is Michelle Bachmann sponsoring this talk, but she's on one of the briefs arguing against the health care law.
And I think we all agree, and we should probably put this on the table, that this health care law will end up at the U.S. Supreme Court. We have judges from different circuits disagreeing, which gets you to the U.S. Supreme Court, probably on a fast track.
And a lot of Americans who care about this, noting the fact that the two judges that sided with the Obama administration are Democratic appointees,
and the one who
didn't is a Bush appointee.
And we have a question of congressional authority. So all of that gets us to the U.S. Supreme Court, and Scalia likely to be sitting there when it gets there. So that's the question of controversy, the question you raise, whether there's a conflict of interest. That being said, as you point out, Supreme Court justices speak all the time. I've heard Scalia speak on many occasions. In fact, I know the man, and even though I disagree with him jurisprudentially on almost everything more than any other justice, with the exception of possibly Clarence Thomas, I've never seen him cross the line. He's very careful when he speaks not to cross the line into anything he's going to pass judgment on, and this speech will focus strictly on the separation of powers. It is not about the health care.
All right, aside from the speech, Princella, second question, because this is behind closed doors, how would we know if lawmakers could improperly, for example, attempt to lobby Scalia about issues before the court? Are we supposed to trust that that's not going to happen?
Well, you know, that's exactly the point that I was going to bring up, Chris, is that that's more of a concern than anything else. Obviously, Supreme Court justices have the right to speak to whatever groups that they want to speak to, and it should be noted here, I don't know if it's been said yet, but this is open to congressional members of both sides of the aisle. So both Democrats and Republicans are welcome to attend this event. And yes, you're exactly right. I mean, I think that the bigger issue is making sure that no one is lobbying Justice Scalia for, you know, for what appears to be a pretty big future battle about the health care law. So that is the more important question of the whole deal.
And it does seem, Patrick, like back in the day, Supreme Court weren't out there the way they are now. You also have a situation with Ginny Thomas, the wife of Clarence Thomas, where she has this Tea Party affiliated group, has raised money for them, questions being raised about we don't know where that money is coming from. Is this, with all the fundraising and with the Supreme Court justices being more likely to go out, are we in a whole new area here?
Yeah, I mean, I think what sort of bothers me is, I mean, let's assume that none of this is unethical, technically, you know, that it does sort of fit in that box. The reality, though, is that the Supreme Court is one of the few institutions that still enjoys a sort of a high public approval rating. It's sort of held as this esteemed paragon of virtue. And stories like this, stories like Clarence Thomas and Ginny Thomas, you have sort of every year this debate about whether or not Supreme Court justices go to the State of the Union, how they behave at the State of the Union. I mean, all these stories that create this idea in the public's mind that we are now politicizing the Supreme Court, even if it is completely legal and completely ethical, is going to slowly, I think, chip away at really one of the only institutions that the public still reveres, and that, I think, is the one thing to worry about.
And I have to say, shortly on the heels of the anniversary of Bush v. Gore, which was last weekend, the court has to be very careful about that, and the court has enjoyed over the years, and then at some periods it's had dips in the enjoyment of its legitimacy. Right. And I personally, as a lawyer and a political analyst, think maybe justices shouldn't speak. Maybe they shouldn't write books. I think this court has been very careful, and I'd say Scalia is among the and not to erode their legitimacy. But personally, if I were a Supreme Court justice, and I never will be, but I wouldn't go on a speaking tour.
Yeah, the appearance of conflict is another question. Jamie, Princella, Patrick, thanks to all of you.